Reaching back into history is sometimes the only way to find wisdom, or at least to go hunting for it when few others seem to be looking. On my nightstand sit Ideas and Opinions by Albert Einstein, The Wit and Wisecracks of Mark Twain, and my own printed copies of the routines once delivered by George Carlin. Lately, I find myself needing their wisdom like they've been waiting for the world to catch up. I lean on their wisdom and their witness more and more these days just to keep my sanity. What you'll hear now is my attempt to channel them, to think the way they thought, and to find truths in their voices that still matter in ours. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow gamblers in the casino of democracy, let us all lean closer, not because truth is shy, but because it tends to slip out the side door while everyone else is yelling about the buffet. Here we sit, 7 months plus into a new era, though if you've been conscious at all, it feels more like 7 years or perhaps 7 centuries, depending on how many times you've shouted at the television before breakfast. We are now the proud inhabitants of a country run less like a nation and more like a traveling medicine show. And the elixir, snake oil with a dash of spray tan. I tell you, history will not remember this as the Trump administration. History will file it under the age of amateur night at the apocalypse. Mark Twain once said, "Suppose you were an idiot, and suppose you were a member of Congress, but I repeat myself." Now, a century later, we've improved the formula. We no longer confine idiocy to Congress. We've given it the White House, the press conferences, and a Twitter feed with nuclear codes. Progress. America does love to supersize, and George Carlin, bless his cranky bones, warned us that politicians don't spring fully formed from the swamps. They're the best we can dig up from us. They are the reflection in the funhouse mirror we built ourselves. Look carefully. The clown with the flag pin, that's us, squinting back. Einstein would sigh, tug on his pipe, and mutter about entropy. Systems collapse, he'd say, when energy is squandered on nonsense. And nonsense, my friends, has become our chief export. Forget wheat, forget steel. The American product of the 21st century is weaponized stupidity, packaged in red, white, and blue shrink wrap, and sold wholesale to a population that no longer reads the instructions. We are governed now as though reality were optional. Facts? Those are for weaklings. Data? That's for globalists. Truth? That's what you pay your lawyers to strangle in its crib. Imagine Twain standing at the back of the press room, hat in hand, smirking as officials redefine rain as alternative sunshine. He'd have written it as parody, but today it passes as policy. Carlin wouldn't even bother with a joke. He'd just point at the microphone, mutter, "Told you so," and walk off stage. And Einstein would calculate the half-life of a lie in Washington, concluding that it decays slower than uranium. I sat at a blackjack table once, and George Carlin leaned in and said, "As long as we keep sending idiots to D.C., I'll never run out of material." He was right. But the tragic twist is this: we laugh so hard at the joke, we forget the dealer is still stacking the deck. Our politics has become that casino. You know you're going to lose, but you play anyway because the drinks are free and the lights are pretty. Twain would mutter, "The house always wins," while Carlin would shout, "Stop pretending you're a player, you're the chips." And Einstein, squinting over his spectacles, would ask why we keep trying to win with a system designed to bankrupt us. Turn on the news. Not the reporting of events, mind you, but the oral wallpaper of our decline. Every channel a different circus tent, each ringmaster shrieking their version of the fire. Twain would note that the louder the laugh, the weaker the joke. Carlin would remind us that television doesn't want citizens, it wants consumers with credit cards. Einstein would dryly point out that light travels faster than sound, which explains why Washington looks bright before we hear the stupidity. We stand now on the edge of a curious battlefield, not us against them, but us against us. Half the country rooting for chaos, the other half clutching spreadsheets and hoping arithmetic can still stop a mob, each showing their cowardice as if they had something to put on the refrigerator. Like a 4-year-old, Twain might write it as a riverboat tragedy. Carlin would spit it as a profanity-laced symphony. Einstein would call it unsustainable. I call it Tuesday. And yet, here's the strangest punchline of all: we will endure. Even though America has a crack in it, it isn't like the Liberty Bell, and it is not a fragile teacup. It is a cracked whiskey jug, dented, leaking, yet still sloshing along. Twain would say, "You can fool some of the people all of the time, and that's enough to win an election." Carlin would growl, "They don't give a damn about you." But keep laughing, it's the only sane response. Einstein would whisper, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, because without imagining something better, we'll drown in the knowledge of our failures." I do disagree with Carlin about that. A movie that was too real, that I laughed all the way through it the first time I saw it. Who knew I was seeing a prophecy? It was called Idiocracy. So laugh, my friends. Laugh bitterly, laugh sweetly, laugh loudly enough to scare the liars and soothe your own cracked soul. For in laughter there is truth, and in truth there is still hope, however ridiculous it seems. Closing benediction from the Nightstand Council. May Twain guide your irony, may Carlin sharpen your tongue, may Einstein steady your vision, and may you never ever take the idiots too seriously, because they already do that for themselves.